Morning, everyone. At TuGIS. Eric's gonna start this off, I believe.
Yes. So welcome. I see we have a couple of people who dropped by our booth. Thanks for stopping by the Prince George's County booth. This is actually our first attempt at a mini presentation, and please bear with us if we have some technical difficulties, some technical glitches. But we're happy to highlight some of the great work that we have going on in Prince George's County. I'm joined by Charlie Wren and Charles Braese, and perhaps some others who will drop in. And our very first topic is the county's compliance work, work with compliance with the MS4 project. And Charles Braese will be presenting. He's a very modest man, and I know he's not going to toot his own horn, but his work with MS4 resulted in an ESRI Special Achievement in GIS Award. So congratulations. We're very proud of the work that the Department of the Environment and Charles have done. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Charles for a discussion on the MS4 project.
Thanks so much, Eric, for the introduction, and I appreciate it. And obviously, I put in a lot of hard work, but so did a lot of people at the TuGIS and a lot of the county employees who actually do the work to make sure that the county complies with the NPDS. And with that, I'm going to kind of turn off my video and show you guys what we did. Okay, so everybody can see my screen clearly? Okay. So this is called Tracking Stormwater Management and Watershed Restoration. So integrating geodatabase, workflows, field collection applications, web map applications, and operations dashboards for NPDS compliance. So what we decided to call this thing was the Enterprise Stormwater Management System, okay? And there's a few different components to that. The first component is the Enterprise Stormwater Management Geodatabase, okay? So the strength of that geodatabase comes from the fact that all stakeholders can enter data and see the other stakeholders' data. So prior to this, every division and department had their geodatabase for their workflow, for their work, and putting that all into one comprehensive template was very difficult. And when the Maryland Department of the Environment issued their MDE reporting geodatabase template in 2017, we saw the need to bring all data into one enterprise geodatabase so that it could then be transformed into the MDE's reporting geodatabase. Okay, so the advantages to this is that we were no longer reconciling data differences between agencies and our annual report. And there was no more reconciling data between consultants who supported the stormwater management operations and their permit compliance, because each consultant had their own geodatabase, which was great for that individual purpose. But for the overall purpose, we needed something that worked for everything and everyone. So this is just a little schematic here. The departments in and programs within the county that do a lot of the function reporting to the MDE geodatabase. So the way we look at it is that the geodatabase provides information for the workflows, and the workflows bring information back for the geodatabase. We're mainly using our workflows right now for BMP inspections, illicit discharge detection, elimination inspections, as well as stormwater management pollution prevention plan, otherwise known as SWIP workflows. Also, with the geodatabase and field collection web applications, the geodatabase is serving the applications with data, and then the inspectors are then collecting information about that data and sending it back to the geodatabase. All this is ultimately pushed out to operations dashboards so that when anybody needs summary analytics on the fly, needs a screenshot for presentation, or just wants to remember where we were at on last year's metric for this program, they can go ahead and check that stuff out. So, like I was mentioning, we used Workflow Manager for a few different programs that are needed for an NPDS permit. So the way we saw it is that the workflow manager was essentially a digital SOP for data entry into our enterprise stormwater management geodatabase. And so there's the advantages that are it gives us repeatable workflows to provide consistent steps for users to follow. Users are assigned their jobs by the administrator. The administrator can see where the users are in the progress of their jobs. Jobs can be handed to other users while in progress. And, as you have staffing changes and life events, that's very important to not literally drop the ball. This makes sure the ball does not stays in play. It's also helpful for new staff. We've had 2 new inspectors come on and use these technologies well. And we can also track the progress in the creation of the data. So this little screenshot shows, there was a job type for inspection, as well as the job types for entering developer BMPs by our permitting inspection. And each job has its own unique ID assigned to a user in the enterprise geodatabase. And all this can be administered through the administrator. Here's a little quick screen capture on one of our workflows. Obviously, there's a lot of contingent values. Each user has to click through each step. And so when they say inspection completed, compliant, yes, well, at every point that they click each one of these steps, it creates a record in the geodatabase that user said that marked this step as complete or not complete on that day at that time. So it also helps us keep track. We have almost 6,000 BMPs in Prince George's County that need to be inspected triennially. So keeping track of where we are with each inspection and the compliance for the triennial cycle is incredibly important. This makes that possible. So we're really excited about that, and it's been helpful. And we have plans to move forward with more Workflow Manager in the coming years. So for our field inspections, we used the collector and survey 123 and quick capture to address the regulatory elements of the BMP inspection, the illicit discharge detection elimination, and the commercial industrial survey. So advantages are right off the top. There's no more paper in the field. Folks were going out into the field previously, performing their inspection, coming back into the office, manually entering the information from a piece of paper into an Access database. Obviously, that worked well for many years, but we decided to kind of upgrade to the latest technology to save a little time. And honestly, as many of you know, it ensures more accuracy when folks are not reading their own handwriting and typing into a database. So web application can be used with phone, tablet, or computer, and it operates without Wi-Fi where necessary. Folks can voice to text their inspection notes, take pictures with the device camera, and there is a direct upload to the Survey 123 cloud database, which can be consumed for analytics in the Survey 123 dashboard. So that's very helpful for especially the folks that are scheduling the inspections and making sure all the BMPs get inspection. And then we translated all existing inspection forms into surveys in Survey 123. So, this was a good lift to capture, the functionality of the paper forms that have been used for many years. And this application consumes the data from the enterprise stormwater management geodatabase for the BMPs, the storm drain systems, the easements, property parcels, etc. So, here's a quick glance of some of the data, and as you can see, the purple, those are all the BMPs, and the greens ones are the actual points that were collected by the field by the collector in Survey 123. And here is just a screenshot of a report that's configured right out of Survey 123. They hit print, and this comes out. So we really like that a lot. The formatting was configured through Arcade. It took a little bit to get it the way it used to look on coming out of the printer, but we got it right, and now it comes out of the printer beautifully. So we're really excited about this. Here's a quick view on the commercial industrial survey that we're doing through quick capture. We identified certain activities that we want to be mindful of in a commercial industrial survey, such as dumpsters, exposed stockpile, et cetera, et cetera. So when the user is driving around, taking a look at the properties, they see something, they just say automotive oil, and they take a picture of the oil spill, and it gives it a point, adds voice to text and comments, and then they're off and running for their day. So we believe this is a very effective way to just grab information to then follow up on later, without going ahead and through the entire survey process and collector process. Just one app, point, click. This is what I see. Move on with your day. And then we have the BMP system map. So this is essentially our enterprise stormwater management geodatabase as a web mapping application. And so it has every feature class and table and relationship enabled within the web mapping application. The idea was to give our users the full functionality of the enterprise stormwater management geodatabase through a web application. Obviously, certain users who already knew how to use GIS really liked this because they, didn't have to remember which server to connect to and have the right version of the software. They just bookmarked it and opened in Chrome. Other users who were not familiar with GIS have been given tutorials and shown how to find the information about their project, about the BMP, about the easement, et cetera, et cetera. So we also pre-configured it to generate reports based off of who owns what land, our eight-digit watersheds, the MS4 regulated areas, our municipalities, which are part of our phase one permit, and user drawn areas. Council districts have been added since I developed this presentation. And all of the reports can come out as a CSV, which can be opened in Excel that the user can then download directly from this. So the users can use the search button. We have the county address locator in here. So if somebody receives a complaint about some issue at an address, they can copy and paste that out of the email, zoom in, take a look at what's going on, and then if they need to make some sketches or identify some stuff, or just kind of print a map for reference to then go back and talk to the person, they can do that, and it prints into PDF. And then we can see summary info based on map extent and layer selected, just at a quick glance where are we at. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into the BMP system map, and up there that identified a BMP. And let's see here. So I'm going to go into here. This is a little south of the University of Maryland. And let me do this real quick. All right, that's better. So here's some BMP summary info. So as you see, right now I only have ESD structural turned on. There's 2,258 BMPs within this screen view. But then let's figure out how many alternative BMP linear, alternative BMP area, as well as how many stormwater management projects that we also have in the vicinity. There we go. Everything takes a second when I'm doing video and over the web. So yeah, this has been a very valuable resource. Obviously, when we first deployed it, we had a lot of user feedback, so we've changed it a lot since then, and there's more things that we want to develop. But we're very happy for bringing the information to all of our end users and decision makers using this, as well as having our end users tell us, hey, we need this, we need this, we need this, and also taking it a few steps further for them to get the information when they need it. It also helps the GIS staff because this is kind of like the buffet for the data. So obviously we can't pre-configure every request, but based off the requests we've received over the last few years, we were able to say, okay, people want to know how many BMPs are in Hyattsville. So I'm going to move down here. Eric, how am I doing on time?
We have another couple of minutes.
Okay, cool. All right, so here's a quick example. This is just a pre-cut map that we made out of the BMP system map. I'm not going to go through the process, but you just go to print here. I had taken the liberty of drawing a few features, pretending like I was an engineer. And I was like, look, we're going to make a BMP with a drainage area here, and there's the pipe system. Anyway, I was able to do this. And again, you have pre-configured symbology. legend and scale bar and everything, and it says Prince George's County Department of the Environment down there. So that's all really nice. Again, the GIS staff are not being asked, sometimes people just need maps when they need maps, and sometimes we can just point them to this and say, hey, go ahead and print your map out for what you need, as opposed to the GIS staff stopping whatever it is they're doing and figuring out the mapping requirements, configuring symbology, legend, all that stuff for one-off requests. And here's our BMP inspection operations dashboard. So if you'll notice these green and purple dots, those were from the previous web app. And so we use this to collect a lot of different metrics. And so I'm going to select a date range because I'm sure anybody interested in here, everybody knows that the fiscal year is the thing you want the information about for your programs. So this goes ahead and configures everything based off of that. And we were able to get the summary analytics for the year at a glance for the given month as we progress through the fiscal year, etc. So obviously, again, a very powerful tool for our decision makers and our section heads who need to know what their program is doing without having to ask the GIS staff to run tools. So that's very powerful. As many of you know, NPDES permits require restoration of impervious surfaces in the state of Maryland. So we have some summary analytics pre-configured from the database based off of project phases for the different restoration programs. These are metrics that need to be reported to the NDE annually. So having these metrics at a glance is very important for our decision makers. Not only is there the NPDES annual report, but there's a slew of other reports and metrics, not only to council, to the state legislature. So that these numbers are on a lot of documents. So it's good to have them up on a dashboard so people can just, grab them as they need to. And the last little bit is the extract, transform, and load using the data interoperability extension. So as I mentioned previously, the many departments and divisions have their own geodatabase, and I had to load it manually into the MDE geodatabase template. Well, after doing this 2 years in a row, I figured out what went where and what needed to be changed in order to conform to the Maryland Department of the Environment geodatabase template. So, I'll just highlight this one. What used to take about 160 hours to do manually now runs in under 3 minutes. Now, it took us a while to configure this thing, but basically what it does is automates the extraction of the relevant records, transforms and or summarizes them, then loads them into the appropriate fields using the correct data types and domains required by the Maryland Department of the Environment geodatabase template. And so this is institutional knowledge of one staff member has been now enshrined in software. Okay, so if anybody ever wanted to know how the BMP inspections got reported into the MDE geodatabase, they could look at this thing and figure that out. And so the parameters for the transformers can be edited as reporting requirements change. The little blue guys here are the transformers. Those say, well, if the fiscal year says this, then put it in this table. If the BMP type is this, then put it in this table. And that's really nice. And then feature caching within this data interoperability allows for easy QC of records that are passing and failing the conditions. So if your data is not all clean or there's an issue, you can kind of go back and say, okay, X amount of records past this transformer. When you look at your database, well, I should have 20 more. What's going on? You can take a look at that and see what's going on. And then data from multiple tables can be filtered, grouped, and summarized and passed to a single table. So the example I have here visually, which I know probably looks a little weird, is these are 4 BMP feature classes. These are the transformers that are grouping and summarizing them by the project status, which is like I was showing you from the operations dashboards earlier. We need to know the impervious acre restoration credit and planning, design, and under construction completed. Again, we're grouping them, and then we're copying the attributes, and then we're populating the MDE table. So this is processing, I want to say close to 40,000 records, just to populate that table. And so, it took a while to configure this and test it, but it works great, and we're very excited about it. Here's another quick example, bringing information just from one table to another table. This is the quarterly grading permits, but again, we're having to aggregate, we're having to transform and put stuff in their format. And so at the end of the day, this was a great project. We worked with Esri on 2 phases on this. Patrick Callahan was the lead for Prince George's County, and Jerry Maldonado was the lead for Department of the Environment. I was working under him on that, and we worked with Catherine Browning and Rama Atluri from Esri on the project. So that's what I got. Do I have any questions?
Yeah, we have a couple of visitors in the booth, and I'd like to open this up for questions. You're welcome to type your questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask your question if you have one.
Cool. Thank you, Laura.
I do have a question.
Sure.
I'll chime in because, I work with you in a different department, but this is the first I've seen this end-to-end presentation. So I'm really impressed. One of the most impressive things to me is how it transformed the workflow of the folks who are out in the field, especially doing the assessments and the inspections. So were there challenges in adoption, getting folks to do things a different way? In the IT world, I see people kind of reject technology all the time, even when it's easier and better and faster, just because it's not what they've always done. So what challenges did you have there, and how did you address those?
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up because, pretty much every GIS conference I've gone to in the past 5 years, there's some seminar that says adopting new technology with existing users, and things have been done here and functioned way before I walked in 2014, and way before Patrick spoke to Esri about automating and changing the way we do things. So, the way we kind of brought it to the users was, we want to take what you have already taken the time and effort to figure out how to do and what to do, and do it in a different way, but for the same purpose, and take all the logic that they, so for instance, this workflow, okay, for the operations dashboard, or excuse me, for the workflow manager, they already had this process. This was their process. So it was a matter of replicating workflow manager, replicating their process. They all saw the benefit of paper versus of digital versus paper. They had also seen projects come and go that had promised, this kind of automation. So, we had a needs assessment with Esri to kind of walk them through, but it was really about learning with the stakeholders, working with everyone to get training, showing them the benefit, especially, I mentioned earlier, manually typing in inspection data from a report into a access database. At the end of the day, people that's just so prone to errors, and we were able to show that it's going to save you time on the QC end, okay, for that inspector to be able to voice to text, and the information just go directly in there. They hit the drop downs, they hit the buttons. There was a learning curve, but it was not even as steep as we expected. And like I'd mentioned, so existing inspectors, they were part of the testing process. It's not like we made something and handed it to them for them to use. Everything was developed with the end users, with, for the people who were doing the work. And that's the one thing we emphasize. This is to help you. If this is not helping you, what do we need to do differently? And that was a strong point of emphasis as much as it was possible. And so I think from that perspective, that challenge was met by respecting their experience and their knowledge, and then also trying to show them how this could make their their tasks, which are producing data for the NPDS report, easier. So that was a good question. Thank you.
Well said, Charles. One last question, if there's no other questions from any of the users or any of the attendees. Just in a minute or two, lessons learned?
The database design. You need to have your database design down. You know, I'll take a look at these, some of these. When I wanted to configure these queries, if my fields weren't configured to leverage these queries, then I had to go back and change my geodatabase fields and schema. And then I had to republish my services and redo this. So, you know, one thing we tried to do was work backwards from operations dashboard perspective. And hey, what information do we want to summarize and then spit out? And then how do we design the database for these applications to leverage that kind of information? So in short, it all starts with the database design, with the schema. Spend 80% of the time on that, and then the rest of it will go smoothly. Otherwise, you will go back and forth with lots of database edits like you saw me do in July.
Duly noted.
Yeah, so.
Okay, any other questions from anyone in attendance? Okay, well, thank you, Charles. I appreciate your presentation, and thank you to our visitors who stopped by the booth. We're happy to see you, and we will make this recording available and play it a time or two for the rest of TuGIS. So thank you all.
Thanks. And Eric, just so you know, that's Chumball, my supervisor in Darnay. He does GIS for the CIP team.
Pleasure to meet you all virtually. Thanks
Cool.
again.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
We'll be seeing you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.